Hi, this is Mr. Evans. This video is going to be the first one in a series of videos on business ownership. This is section 3.1.2 from the specification, and I'm going to start by looking at this concept of limited liability, because this is absolutely crucial for your understanding of these different ownership types. So when we're talking about ownership, you can see here that students need to understand the different legal structures. Well, the legal structure refers to the ownership of a business, who owns a business. The legal structure will determine the liability of a business, the legal liability of a business. Liability is basically who's responsible for the business, who legally is responsible for the actions of that business. It's going to determine the source of finance available for the business. It determines the requirements, the legal requirements for record keeping and publishing accounts and how you report how much money you've made as a business. It determines the degree of risk to the owners and the owner's personal belongings, which I'll talk about shortly. It determines the type of taxes a business will pay. So legal structure is very, very important. And there are four legal structures that you need to know about. There's the sole trader and partnership legal structure, and there's private limited company and public limited companies. I'm not going to go too much into what incorporated and unincorporated means, but these are kind of important concepts for you understanding business ownership. So, what does corporeal mean, which is where this word incorporated, unincorporated, company, it's all the same root of the word, and corporeal means in the dictionary relating to a person's body or literally having a body. So unincorporated businesses do not have a body. Incorporated businesses do have a body. They've been incorporated in law. In other words, they've been brought to life. Sounds a bit weird, but bear with me. Now, unincorporated businesses have unlimited liability. So unincorporated businesses, they have unlimited liability. What does that mean? Well, the business does not have a separate body from its owner. The owner, if I'm running a business called Mr. Evans Plumbing, where I'm a sole trader, I might have £10,000 that I've put into the business, and I've used that £10,000 to buy my van and my tools. I've also got a house and I've got £90,000 in my bank account. So I'm worth £100,000 in total. That's me, and that's a combination of the business assets and my personal assets. Now, because the business is unincorporated, I am the business. The business is me. My bank account is where all the business money goes into. And were the business to make a mistake that it wasn't covered for in insurance, say I fixed someone's boiler and their house blew up and their house was worth £150,000, my business is only worth £10,000. Okay, I can't cover all of that damage that I've caused through my business assets. So because I am the business, because I'm totally responsible for the business, I could lose all of my assets because they're only worth £100,000 and I need £150,000 to pay for the damage that I've caused. So unlimited liability affects unincorporated businesses where the owner of the business is entirely responsible for the debts of the business. That's what it means when we talk about the legal liability of the business. When the business is unincorporated, when it doesn't have its own separate body, I am the business, and any actions undertaken in the course of the business that create damage, I am personally responsible for. Now, the alternative is to have limited liability. How do I get limited liability, and what is it? Well, I need to have an incorporated business. Or what does that mean? Excuse me. It means that I have created a body for my business. I've created a public limited company or a private or a public limited company. Well, what does that mean? What it means is I've invested, in this case, I've set up a business called Evans Plumbing Limited. I've set it up at a place called Company's House. I've paid the solicitors and the fees that I need to in order to incorporate my own business. I have given the business a legal body. It is now recognised in law as its own individual entity. Okay? And Mr. Evans Plumbing Limited can have a bank account of its own. It can have tools of its own. Mr. Evans Plumbing Limited can own stuff. They're not mine, they're the businesses. The van is owned by Mr. Evans Plumbing Limited. Mr. Evans Plumbing Limited can employ people in the same way that Tesco's employs people. Right? I might be employed by Tesco. Tesco doesn't exist. It's not a real thing in reality. It's just been incorporated in law, so it's got a body. And why is this beneficial? Well, it gives me as an owner limited liability. So I've invested my £10,000 in the business. I've bought the van, tools, any money left over. That business is worth £10,000 in total. I have still got my house, my bank account, and I've got £90,000 in assets outside of the business. Now, if something were to go wrong in the course of the business this time, and I had to pay over £10,000, well, I would shut down the business, and that business would become insolvent. The business itself goes out of business, but I am protected by limited liability. The only money that I can lose is the money I've invested into the business, and my personal assets are protected. Yes, I'm an owner of the business, but I'm not the business as I am when I've got an unincorporated business like a sole trader and a PLC. So my liability for the business is only limited in this case to the amount of money that I have put into the business. So I hope that helps to explain this concept of limited and unlimited liability.